What's up, y'all? The NBA season is back, and while teams continue to find their footing, our partners at Fanatics Sportsbook are already running championship plays. Bet with Fanatics and earn up to 10% fan cash on your bets, win or lose. So even if your bet misses, you're still scoring fan cash, which you can use on NBA gear, tickets, and exclusive Fanatics events. And with fair play, if your players go down injured in the first half, your bet stays live. Make the switch and get more ways to win with Fanatics Sportsbook. Winning hits different here.
Well, hello there, everybody. That's what happens when John Macri is on the ones and twos over here. We had no song.
In fairness, this is my first time producing an X's and O's show, and I remembered as the thing started to play with no music that last week DJ was like, "Oh, I got to do the music myself with the thing," and it hit me as the thing started playing. So that's on me. That's my bad, guys. That's my bad.
A silent opening for a loud show. Because, my friends, this is the X's and O's podcast live show presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. I am here not with my dear partner, the detail junkie, the doctor of jump shots, the defender of Julius. He is not with us today, but I am joined by someone who is his own type of detail junkie. Not so much a defender of Julius, last time I checked. Definitely not a doctor of jump shots.
I won't. I'm definitely not the doctor of jump shots. If Julius Randle does not make the Western Conference or / American All-Star, I don't know what to call it, All-Star team, I'm not gonna go nuts about that.
It's Jonathan Macri, everybody. You might know him from some other Knicks Film School properties. Perhaps he's the dean, and he has been kind enough to join us for tonight's show. And so, look, here we are. John, how are we doing?
Honored to be here. Always love to talk hoops with you. We got to talk last night. We tried to keep it focused on the Hornets game, and I thought we did a pretty good job of that. We did delve into some Giannis trade stuff. I don't know how much I don't know if it's the time to get into that tonight. I mean, I feel like people do want to hear about that. I am a little curious about your thoughts on, like, from an X's and O's perspective, what a team with Giannis would look like, but that doesn't seem like it's going to happen for quite some time, maybe not until like July. So I don't know. We could spend our time on a lot of things today, but I'm going to let you be the guy.
Let me start. I think we can get into Giannis a little bit, but let's save that for the end. I want to take a step back here because this is a bit of a landmark of the NBA season. We are about a quarter through, and I think it's a really great time to have an X's and O's show because you want to take a step back. You want to think about what this team has looked like over the first quarter of the Mike Brown era, the post-Tibbs era. And you look at the whole, it's been pretty good. Team has a nice record. They played well. They've really played well at home. You look at the offense, it, I think, has been largely as promised. Modernized, maximized, I don't want to say maximized. I think there's still a lot of room to grow, but certainly modernized, shooting a ton of threes, much more movement. So all stuff that we were kind of expecting and promised on the way into the season. So check a lot of boxes there in terms of like the intention of this coaching change and what we're seeing. And then on the defensive end, it's been interesting. They're about a league average defense, let's say, at the moment, giving up a ton of threes. In a funny way, they're suffering some of the same defensive issues that they had under Tibbs. That hasn't changed all that much in terms of the approach. And so that's where I want to start is we've talked so much about the offense, and that is the focus, and rightfully so, because it was the purpose of the coaching change was the offense. It was not the defense. But I do want to start on the defense because we just had a back-to-back And I know they didn't give up a lot of points to Charlotte, but we watched that game together, John. I don't think the defense was great in that game. I think Charlotte stinks. So Boston exposed certain, I thought, personnel issues because they're such a matchup hunting team, and the Knicks have so many small guys on the floor right now. And then I thought the Hornets, in some ways, exploited schematic issues with the team, which was the ability to break it down quickly and find weak side shooters over and over and over again. So what have you seen, John Macri? Where do you stand right now with the defense? Are you satisfied a quarter into the season? What do you like? What don't you like? What do you expect going forward? Obviously, no OG Anunoby. Your best defensive player by a long shot is out right now. So that is a caveat that's very important. But just generally speaking, big picture, how do you feel about the defensive side of the ball a quarter in?
As I look to answer that question, I'm looking at the Twitter DM I just sent you with the link to this podcast, and I'm realizing that the last Twitter DM that we exchanged was on not the night of the Julius trade. Correct me if I'm wrong. The night after I just called it. I don't think I've ever called it the Julius trade before. The Cat trade, the Devo trade, the Julius trade, that trade. When me and you got on here or got on Twitter Spaces, and we talked about, okay, the Knicks are going all in with this very particular plan that they're going to have to obviously maximize the offense and figure out a way to hide a team featuring prominently two weak defenders. And I guess where I'm at now, 21 games into the season, and I don't know, 100 and how many games did they play this year? Whatever, 120 something games into the Karl-Anthony Towns era, still with like largely the same perception of things that I had that night that we talked in September of 2024, which is like, ultimately, why are we seeing what we are seeing, right? Let's come back to that. Why is there so much help into the paint? Because isn't that the fundamental thing that is happening here? That's what I'm going to ask you. Is that what's basically the thing?
I think it's a combination of a few things. I don't think there's one reason why they're conceding a lot of threes. I will start with Mike Brown. From the moment he got here, when he's been asked about defense, has talked about the shifts. That's been the big word. The key, the buzzword has been shifts. And what shifts mean is he wants to load up on the ball. And I think even more than Tibbs did, Tibbs was made famous. Tibbs revolutionized NBA defense by loading up on the ball early. Now, I actually thought last year he toned that down a little bit to the Knicks' benefit, and now Mike Brown has kind of dialed it way back up. I mean, they are in really heavy gap help. And from the start, if you are going to play that way, it is a difficult defense to prevent threes. It is hard to play that heavy and help right off the bat, right? To load up on the ball and then recover out. So that's, I think, before you get to any personnel issues, schematically, you're putting yourself in a little bit of a tough spot. Now, when we get to the personnel issues, this is my second step. It is harder to play that defense and contest threes when you're playing a lot of small guards. Because it is hard for those guys, they don't have the strides to get out in 1 or 2 steps. It takes them 3 or 4 steps. And number 2, their reach is just not the same. So the shots going up on the Brunsons and the Clarksons and the McBrides and the Koleks. So the team is playing a lot of small guards. It is hard to play this defense in the first place, no matter who you are, to prevent threes. And then when you add the fact that they're playing a lot of small guards, it gets even that more difficult. And by the way, I would include Josh Hart as a smaller guard just in this respect, as he's someone who struggles to kind of come in and then get out on three-point shooters.
He becomes a smaller guard in a rotation without OG Anunoby, because all of a sudden he's the next man on the totem pole who has to maybe cover your Franz Wagner's or your Jaylen Browns or whatever.
But I'm not even talking about his one-on-one defense. I'm talking about his ability to be in help and then get back out. And he is not great at that. And he's not large. He's not that big. So, yeah, I mean, this isn't a rebounding situation where he can just fly in there. Like it takes a certain reach. It takes a certain stride. He doesn't really have it. That's number 2. And then the third thing I'll get to is where you were going. And I do think it's a big part of it is when you're almost playing what pick and roll coverage Cat is playing. We've talked about this since the beginning. It is sometimes hard to know because he is inconsistent with whatever coverage is being told to him, which is why you are still getting all the glances at Cat after defensive plays where the guards are like, where were you? You were supposed to be here, supposed to be there. It is hard to know. But what I will say is he is in a semi-drop where sometimes he's a little farther up. Rare instances where Brown has had him really blitz. Mostly it's been kind of a semi-soft drop. Now, theoretically, what that is supposed to do, John, this is what you were getting to, is you don't have to send help from the weak side because your center is in help through the scheme. He's dropping. Therefore, I can stay closer to shooters. That is theoretically what drop coverage is supposed to accomplish. When it's Karl-Anthony Towns, however, and you don't trust him to protect the rim even when he's in drop, and he's off balance as the screen as the guy's coming off the screen so that he's getting split or getting beat around the corner, your weak side help does feel like they have to pull in, and now you're taking away nothing. So you're not pressuring the ball handler with Cat because he's not up on the screen, and your weak side is crashing in. And that all these things together is causing this parade of threes that the Knicks are giving up. I don't know if there's an obvious or easy solution based on what we just talked about. I will say I think Brown needs to at least tone down the shift scheme for his small guards. I don't feel like right now there is a personnel distinction. OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, you can be heavy gap because you are ideally suited to help and recover out. Brunson, it's just every time he does it, it's a three. Every time he's deep. Clarkson, like they need to be more selective about how, when, and how they're showing that help. I think that is the first step. Whether they can solve the Cat part of this is an age-old question. It seems the answer might be no.
Well, so given that these threes are always so open and always so available, I look at the one number their defense is the best in the entire league at, which is taking away the short mid-range. And I think you could almost flip that on its head and say that is not a compliment.
That's
that they are taking, because no teams ever need to take the short mid-range. They don't need to shoot.
That's exactly right. I wouldn't say they're the best in the NBA at it. I would say teams don't need to take them. And that's a problem. And right. And the point this goes to is they're also not taking away the rim. Now teams aren't making a lot of their shots at the rim. So that's, I guess, a good thing. That doesn't totally match my eye test. I don't know if I would say that their rim protection has been great this season, but it's been okay. Their wings are good at it. It helps that you have Mikal and OG down there to rim protect. But if you're not taking away the rim frequency-wise and you're not taking away threes, it's just a recipe for disaster for the defense. And they need to solve one of those two things.
Just to put a finer point on it, almost to the decimal place, they're giving up the same amount of shots at the rim this year as they were last year. The difference, and I know this is going to shock people because the games where they gave up a lot of threes and the games where random players would go off against the Knicks, those are the ones that stick in our minds as fans. But the Knicks were the sixth best team in the league at taking away the three last year. And this year they're the 29th best. There's a monumental gap between those two things. And to answer your question, what do you do about it? Look, Cat's got to be Cat. And I don't, that's not going to change. I just don't know, because if you're going to play him at the 5, like there needs to be some version, right, of this scheme, because are you really going to trust him to consistently like be up at the level or doing stuff up there? Because I think we've seen that movie before. Do we want to go back to that?
The best, the option that is out there, which arguably won the Celtics series, is you switch.
Yeah,
is just get more aggressive switching with Cat.
Yeah.
And I think it's so funny because we could be talking about a Tibbs team right now. Now, I don't think Tibbs got enough credit for the fact that he didn't give up a lot of threes last year, because he did tone down the help scheme a little bit against his nature and against his own innovation in the league, which was a big deal. And it helped their defense a lot that they weren't giving up as many threes. But you could switch. What that does, however, and a reason that coaches are hesitant to do that, and what you said that they're the best in the league at something on defense, I thought you were going to say they're defensive rebounding.
Oh, well, that's the other thing. That
is the reason their defensive rebounding is the reason they are an average defense despite the shot diet they're conceding. It's because teams don't get second chances. Hornets game notwithstanding last night. So They are an excellent rebounding team, and much of that rebounding success is Cat being down there. So the second you start switching him out or even blitzing, and now you're pulling him away from the rim, you might be sacrificing rebounding on the other end. So there's a push and pull. There's no easy solution. We've always said they should mix up looks. They have done that a bit more this year. You'll see Cat occasionally blitz a pick and roll, but it's a quandary. And look, the team is built around two great offensive players who struggle defensively. They are trying to insulate that with their wing play. When OG's back, it makes a huge difference. Mikal has been great this year. Deuce McBride on the ball has been really good this year. So you have the right recipe to kind of insulate the best you can, except for the fact that your bench guys are defensively challenged 6-foot point guards. That is not ideal for this team construction. And it's something that I forget about the Giannis conversation. If there is a way for this team to bring in some kind of big wing help, I just imagine they're going to have to look for that. Like whether whoever it is, it needs to be. If it's not Diawara and it's not Daddier, and it doesn't appear that it's either of them, at least this year.
Well, not right now.
Then it's got you can't be playing lineups with Clarkson, Kolek, and Brunson, which they played against the Boston Celtics. That's not tenable.
If they had one more wing that they played regularly, they would have the sort of personnel that was a little bit closer and not identical, because there's no Jalen Brunson-sized player on the Suns, but a little bit closer to Phoenix. The reason why I bring up Phoenix is Phoenix has kind of a similar-ish profile to the Knicks in that they give up their effective field goal percentage against is very high. It's 16th against the Suns, it's 22nd against the Knicks. So obviously for the Knicks, it's a little higher. But the Suns are a top 10 defense. So right now, Cleaning the Glass has them 8th. And I think the reason for that is, guess what the Suns do better than any team or better than any team except Oklahoma City. And Oklahoma City is in a different category in this stat because of their personnel. Forcing turnovers.
Yeah.
And so I think the gamble, and the Knicks are 10th in forcing turnovers,
yeah.
But I think ultimately for this scheme to pay off, don't the Knicks need to go from 10th in forcing turnovers to top 5? And maybe that doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you force those turnovers, that leads to easy baskets, and it's less shooting opportunities in the whole thing. There's a trickle-down effect.
Yeah, and so Mikal has certainly done his part to force turnovers.
Yes, he has.
Now they are missing one of the great turnover generators on the wing in the league, in OG. So again, you want to cut them a little slack there. But the guy that we haven't talked about yet, and who isn't playing every game, but he's now played a bunch of games, and has been in his career at times an elite turnover generator, and who has not been that this season, and who frankly has not been good defensively this season, is Mitchell Robinson. And maybe that's a fourth factor I should include here, because Cat isn't always playing the 5. There's another guy that comes in and plays, a good 20 minutes at the 5 a night when he's healthy, and he's supposed to be a lockdown drop 5 defender who also blocks shots and gets steals. And he's essential to the Knicks' defensive identity, and has been in the past and was last season. And right now, man, he is struggling. I mean, there was a play against Boston. It's going to be in my gradebook tomorrow, where he's rotating out to what's his name, Hugo Gonzalez on the Celtics.
Oh, I remember the play you're talking about.
And he actually, because Gonzalez has struggled to shoot this year, short closes correctly, so he doesn't go all the way out.
Yeah.
And Gonzalez pump fakes and still blows right by him for a layup.
Dusts him.
And that is not Mitchell Robinson. That is just so. If he's not informed defensively to be a positive contributor on that end, we're kind of running out of really good defensive players on this roster. He kind of needs to be one for this to all work on the defensive side of the ball.
I forget if I was on with you or I was on with somebody else recently, or I was just talking to myself, which I do on occasion. But the on-off number for Cleaning the Glass for defensive rating for Mitch, it's plus 6.5, and you don't want to be a plus in the defense. That means you're giving up 6.5 more points per 100 possessions. That's in the 17th percentile. Mitchell Robinson being a 17th percentile player in defensive on-off, and you could talk to me about noise because he's in lineups, I guess, with like Kolek and Clarkson here and there. But like, I'm sorry, Cat's in a lot of lineups with freaking Kolek and Clarkson and stuff at the beginning of these second quarters. And a Cat's number is almost the exact inverse of Mitch. The Knicks are 6.2 points per 100 possessions. Stingier with Cat on the floor. Which is like, you look at those two things, you're like, am I going insane? You're not. I mean, do I think that there is a 13 point per 100 possession gap between Cat and Mitch? No, I don't, but it's pretty wild.
Yeah, no, it hasn't been good enough for Mitch in that. He's really right now an offensive rebounder only. That is his contribution. And it's important and he's amazing at it, but you need him to be a defensive stopper to some extent. And we'll see if he can kind of round himself into shape there. It's going to be an important part of the final 3 quarters of the season, is keeping him healthy, obviously, but trying to get him into some kind of form where he's a defensive standout again. They need that from him. There's like no question they need that from him. So look, that's, and Josh Hart being top of the list in terms of blow by percentage. There's a graphic going around the other day. That's not good either. Like, again, we know Josh Hart's not a perfect defensive player. I think he kind of had that reputation early in his career, and I think it was a misplaced reputation because of his rebounding and his athleticism generally. Like, people thought he's not a shutdown defender by any stretch. But again, on this roster, with who else they're kind of trying to navigate around, he needs to be a good defender. And I don't think he's really been that this year. I think he's probably been below average. And I'm pretty sure that those on-off numbers, you can check them for me, John. He's not great on the defensive end either in terms of on-off.
It's the worst on the team.
Yeah. That they need, we talk about the weak points that they have on defense that they're always covering for. Well, they also need their good defenders to play up to their potential for this to work. And look, again, the offense has been great. The defense has been good enough where the offense could win games for them. So there's no emergency here. They have a long way to go to figure this out, and they're missing, again, their best defender. So once that comes together, there's still a lot of growth to happen. I do think there's something to Mike Brown having a offensive focus from camp on. I don't think that he's really dipped into his bag yet on the defensive end. They barely played zone. I think they will play more zone as the season goes on. So I think Brown has been pretty sticking to his basics on the defensive side and letting his team get to the offensive level he needs them to get to, which again, I think is the right approach for this team, because that's where they need to get offensively. But it's a work in progress and they need to get better. They do need to get better.
But just to put a finer point on it, because you started talking about defense and we're trying to figure out solutions. Like what is the end goal here? Cat's not going. Oh, that's probably not going anywhere. Brunson is not going anywhere.
No. And
so currently you have in this rotation, Jordan Clarkson, Tyler Kolek, Gershon Yabusele, kind of, and a version of Mitchell Robinson that is not Mitch. That's for this team to get where it needs to get to, it feels like several of those pieces need to move out and come in. You need to be replaced by neutral to positive defenders. So I think, again, Ian Bagley, I'm pretty sure he mentioned Najee Marshall as a name to keep an eye on.
He got aggregated there and responded that he did not say that Marshall was a specific target, but just that the Knicks would be interested, like many teams would be interested. And yeah, they should be. I don't know if
of course they should.
But I said it on our playback watching the Mavs game. I was like, the Knicks should look into Najee Marshall.
But if they injected one more 25-minute a game, average to above average wing defender into the picture, I feel like that would make such a difference, because it would knock everybody else down. It's crazy that I have to sit here and say, when they get Landry Shamet back, that'll help. But
yes,
when they get Landry Shamet back,
Landry in his own way is undersized, and he's it's not perfect, but he's a wing replica at the very least who will be a nuisance. Yes. And they need him. Yeah, with the roster construction. And look, it is fair. I've seen this criticism. I think it's a fair one in terms of their draft performance.
No.
And you would have liked to hit once between these. And these guys are very young, so it's not over. But because of the team's window, you kind of needed production either now or next year, right? So between Daddier, Diawara, McCullers Jr., a lot of teams now you watch the Celtics that night. They're throwing out Minot and they're throwing out Gonzalez. And look, those guys aren't perfect. They had good games. It's not always going to look great, but I'd love to have one of those guys in my rotation right now. Just some length and some defense. Like that's what the Knicks need. And they, unfortunately, now Brown isn't playing them. Does that mean they can't play? Probably. I don't know. Diawara is very raw. You can see that every time he comes out there. Daddier, 2 coaches now don't seem to have any interest in playing him. And McCullers, I think, has always had injury issues, and I'm not sure where he is. But it's fair to criticize them. And then taking Kolek with that draft pick, again, I like Kolek. I think he's doing some good things out there. But it was a team with Jalen Brunson that you drafted him to. And did that make sense? That makes sense. I think it's a fair question. Kolek might be good, but I think it's a fair question.
Look, the list is get OG on the court, 1A. What's 1A? What's 1A and what's 1B for you? Get OG back on the court. Get Mitch looking like Mitch again. Or is it just it's a tie? They're
definitely get OG on the court.
Get OG on the court.
OG is he fixes a lot of problems. He covers a lot of gaps. He glues a lot of strands. He's just like, that's who he is. He's a defensive connector, if there was such a thing.
So get OG back, get Mitch looking like Mitch again, and get one more wing in here between now and it doesn't even have to be about the trade deadline because you could do I doubt a buyout guy is going to become available who's actually going to be a serviceable enough player. And then you get Shamet back in here and I do think some schematic adjustments between more zone when it's needed and then just being a little bit more personnel dependent on your shifts, I think is like an important change for this team because it makes no sense right now what they're doing. Like Brunson is helping way too much, making too little impact, and then not being able to recover the threes. It doesn't make sense. So I get it if that was the principle you wanted to hammer home early in the season. And it makes sense that as the season goes on, you'll start to kind of individualize the assignment. I would like to see that start to happen because, again, every time Clarkson and Brunson collapse onto those elbows, it's an open three. It's inevitable. It happens every single time. There's almost a part of me that wonders if he should be, and this is, I hate that I have to say this man's name, if he should be treated like Trae Young on defense from a scheming perspective, where like the Hawks, correct me if I'm wrong, you watch more Atlanta basketball than I do, but like they scheme everything around making sure teams don't destroy Trae Young. Like, yeah,
the Knicks, I mean, this is another thing that was a problem under Tibbs, and I haven't seen it really fixed, is like they don't pre-switch enough.
Yeah.
Like Atlanta would go, you'd have to call up 4 screeners before they'd let you screen Trae's man. They would just scramble and scramble and scramble. The Knicks really don't do that. And now part of that is that Brunson's a little bit better than Young as a defender.
He is. And that's why I wanted to like couch what I was saying.
But you're not wrong. And I do believe they should pre-switch more stuff. And sometimes the easiest way to do that sometimes is even to start in a zone where they don't think they can call a guy up. Even if you switch to man after the first pass or whatever, just to make it not so obvious about who. I mean, Boston just walked down the entire second quarter.
Yeah.
Brought Brunson's man up. They conceded the switch on the first screen, which I hated. And now you have Jalen Brown on Brunson for 18 seconds. At some point, he's going to find a crack. And, like, you can make that harder. You're battling the clock now in the NBA as much as you're battling the offense. You just want to get their action to have less time on the clock when it begins. Part of that is ball pressure, which the Knicks, I think, have done a little bit of a better job this year. Part of that is just confusing the offense enough where they don't know what to go to. That's pre-switching actions. That's mixing up your defenses and coverages. That's mixing up your matchups. Like, they should be doing a little bit more of all of that to make it just more confusing on offenses. I am hopeful that Brown, again, is going to build this out as we go.
Everything you're saying points to the truth of what you said earlier, which is that the focus has been more on the offense instead of the defense.
Yeah. So let me pivot now to so I asked our Brunson and Monroe tier patrons.
Shout out to all y'all.
What did I just say? To ask some questions. Now, I'm only gonna reach for one here, but it very much dovetails into what we were talking about. So the question is from A Profound Dream. His question is, when OG returns, who starts?
We're gonna do this now? Okay.
Let's do it.
Well, Mitchell Robinson, as currently constituted, is not enough. He's not a viable option, and I think that would be. I just don't know why they would do that.
So I think, okay, let's present the question. I think there are three options, right?
Sure.
Between Mitch, Hart, and Deuce. I think that's really the question.
Why do you hate Gershon Yabusele? It's terrible.
I mean, listen, it might have been Landry Shamet before he got hurt, but I think it's these three.
I will stand by. I don't think it could be Mitch right now. If Mitch eventually looks like Mitch again, then that's great, and we could have that conversation then. It sure sounds like it's going to be Hart, right?
That is where the press conference indications are, based on
so
how
what say you about that?
I want Deuce to start. That's how I feel, and the reasons for that are because number one, there are actually a few reasons for it. Number one,
let's do it.
I like Mikal and OG in my gaps, especially with the shift defense that they're playing. I want Deuce McBride on the ball in most matchups, assuming that your point guard isn't like one of these 6'8" point guards. But assuming
so, I wrote down. I went through the entire East in a newsletter earlier this week, and I tried to get at. I think I got to 3, maybe 4 teams where Deuce would not be guarding like a guy that's the traditional lead guard of the team.
So it's Franz,
Cade.
Yeah, Cade. Cade maybe. Cade overpowered him in the playoffs last year, but I wouldn't mind seeing it a little bit now. Cade has become a really good post player, so that's dangerous. And I actually I like Anunoby on him sometimes too. So I think you could switch that matchup up. I don't think Cade's incapable. I don't think McBride's incapable of guarding Cade.
He's not incapable, but is that the ideal thing you want? Maybe not.
Right.
Toronto, you're not putting McBride on Barnes or RJ.
But quickly actually I think initiates most. They're a weird team.
Okay, so then maybe they're in this other zone, and that's really all. That's really all I had. You know,
yep.
Giddey. I think I talked about. Or I mentioned with Chicago because they're a little bit of they're funky too.
I'd like to. Giddey's a problem. I would again. I think McBride can take that matchup, but you probably want to mix it up and put some size on him as well. But for the most part, and to the most part, is he can be the point of attack guy, and you can get your wings off the ball where they can do the most damage and be the most disruptive. So that's defensive end number one. Number two, I want to try to force centers to guard Karl-Anthony Towns to start games. Now, however you want to close the game, fine. At least to start the game, I want to make defenses make a tough decision on who's guarding Cat. And as long as Hart's around, that decision is not difficult for any coach, even if he's shooting 40%, frankly. So I want to see that.
50%.
It doesn't matter. So, look, at some point it can matter. If he keeps this up for 35, 40 games and we actually think we have a new Josh Hart, but, most of the time that's not what happens a decade into your career. Most of the time you are who you are as a shooter.
We've seen guys shoot 40% from 3 for an entire regular season, and good coaches will not pay them that respect if they have a longer track record before that.
That's right. So I want to. So that's the second reason, is because I do want, if Cat at the 5, we've said this from the beginning, like the way that you maximize that advantage is if 5s have to guard him. And so that's number 2. And then the third reason, which is maybe a little less obvious, but I think important, is I need a wing rotation that makes sense. And if you're starting all 3 wings and now off the bench is McBride, Clarkson, maybe Kolek if he's in the rotation, now all your small guards are off the bench. It just doesn't really make sense lineup-wise. I just feel like it's a more natural rotation where you can have 2 of your wings out there basically at all times if Hart comes off the bench and relieves one of the wings as the first substitution. So, and then I'll give a 4th reason while I'm at it. My 4th reason is I, in my heart, pun intended, believe that Josh Hart is best. And I know maybe the evidence points against that now because he's been so good since he started getting a lot of minutes again. But I think for the team to succeed at its highest level, Josh Hart should be 25 to 30 and not 30 to 40 in terms of his minutes. And that might not work for Josh Hart because we haven't seen Josh Hart yet on the Knicks be able to channel his best in a shorter minutes load. But for the team, the idealized version of this team, I do believe that Josh Hart should be more like 27, 28 than 34, 35.
And it was implied within a few of those points, but you could throw a number 5 reason just with a bullet, which is that Deuce, as a shooter, he's probably going to make more shots. And I don't care what the percentages say. Like, I trust Deuce, in terms of the degree of difficulty of his shots.
Definitely right now, man. Holy moly, he's hot. Yeah.
So I have 2 questions for you. One, why do you think the coaching staff, as Mike Brown told us, unless he's lying, I don't think he doesn't seem like a guy who lies. He seems like a guy who just goes up there and says whatever actually happens, which is talk about a guy who's different than the last person who said
he is more transparent, although his Mitch injury management stuff was rather
but that's not him. That's from Correct. On high. Correct. We know that. So why do you think the coaching staff implored him seemingly to start Josh Hart? And my second question is a 2-part question. Does the lack of size in the starting unit, in the resulting starting unit that you want, specifically from a rebounding perspective, would that concern you? And the second part of the question is, would you be ready to pivot back to the Hart starting 5 against certain of these jumbo teams that you're going to potentially see in the playoffs, where I just don't think there's enough hiding spots for both Brunson and I hate to say hiding spot and Deuce McBride in the same sentence, but you know what I'm getting at here.
Who's the team?
Well, let's start with Orlando. Let's say we can talk about whether Paolo makes sense. When Paolo comes back, you're going to start him. So it's Suggs, Bane,
Paolo, Wagner, Bane. Yeah, I think Deuce can guard Bane. I'm cool with that.
And you're living with
and Brunson guard Suggs. Yeah.
Okay. And then the other team I'll ask about, I don't care about Toronto. The other team I'll ask about is Detroit. So Detroit right now, before they trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo, or Lauri Markkanen, I don't want either of those things to happen. I really don't. Is starting Cade, Asar, Tobias, Jalen Duren, and pick one of LeVert or Duncan Robinson.
Yeah, so LeVert, Duncan, one of them, probably Brunson, and then Deuce guards. Who'd you have there?
Asar,
yeah, Asar.
So then I
worry about the Knicks had Brunson on Asar last season for a lot of the playoffs,
and they got destroyed on the fucking.
Yes, they did. Yeah, I hear you. I'm not.
No,
I'm not
your
terrified.
Considerations are all real.
I'm not terrified of that. I'm just not.
Okay.
And there's no evidence at the moment. I don't think there's been any evidence for a year plus now that Deuce lineups rebound worse. Deuce plus Brunson lineups rebound worse. As long as Cat's out there, Mitch theoretically, whenever he's out there, I think the bigs on this team rebound well enough. I think OG has made a concerted effort to rebound a little bit better. So I think I don't look. I could be proven wrong. I want to see it though. So let's get some evidence and see it. But I think the positives outweigh the negatives in terms of the roster construction, minutes management, rotation management, all that.
Do you know why? And after this, we can move on. Why I think I don't know whether you're right. Nobody knows whether you're right. We got to see it for an extended period of time, and that's part of the problem. Like, what was it? 82 possessions last season. I don't know how many possessions it's been so far this season. It's unfair to judge the possessions this season because OG's been hurt, and actually when Deuce missed some time, it was when OG was still in there, I think. So like they really have not had an opportunity to play a ton of. How many possessions do you think their most played lineup has played right now?
I know
possessions. They've played as a team about 2,000 possessions this season.
Like 100.
Oh, yeah, actually. Okay, so the most played one has played 200. It's Brunson, McBride, Hart, Bridges, Towns. The second most played.
The current starting lineup.
The current starting lineup has played 202 possessions because they've started however many games. The next one after that is Brunson, Shamet, Bridges, Anunoby, Towns,
which was the starting lineup for a while as well when Mitch was out.
Which was the starting lineup. And then
that lineup was not good.
That lineup got or ended up with a dead even net rating.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they were negative for a while.
Yes, they were. And then the lineup you're talking about, the lineup, right, in many fans' estimation, has played 54 possessions this season. So we're already approaching the 82 that it played last season. And I think even that 54 is a misnomer because, again, I don't think these guys have been healthy for a ton of games. Here, thing I want to say, and then we can move on. The reason why they should at least try it is for this very simple reason for me. And again, this goes back to that first conversation we had when they traded for Karl-Anthony Towns. You're going to trade for Karl-Anthony Towns. It doesn't mean he has to take the most shots on your team. It doesn't mean he has to be the best player on your team. It doesn't mean any of those things. But you fundamentally need to extract every ounce of everything from what this player brings on the offensive end of the floor. Because if you're not doing that, why the fuck did you get him? And so what is the way to do that? There are a lot of different ways that we thought they could be doing that last year that they did not seemingly do. I don't even know that they've done a great job of it this year, but I know the path to that probably includes, for the reason that you talked about who's guarding him and who's not guarding him, starting Deuce McBride.
Yep. That echoes what we talked about from day one, right? And as to the point of why Mike Brown is saying all this, I would say one of two things. And I don't know. It's probably a mixture of both, and I don't know what the percentages are of either one. But one is Josh Hart is sensitive. He has proven it. He is sensitive. He wears his emotions on his sleeve. He is a vocal leader on the team for better or for worse because he's kind of volatile. His body language can be volatile. We love him, but I think some of it is appeasement because I don't think Hart was very happy when he came off the bench to start the season. I am sure while he says he's always happy to sacrifice, I guarantee that it was obvious to anyone around him that he wasn't thrilled with it. And I'm sure it was obvious to Mike Brown that he wasn't thrilled with it. And so he, as a leader of the team, someone who's been there, someone who's very close to their best player, it behooves the coach of the team to practice some appeasement. I do think that is some of it. The second part of it is he's great. The second part of it is he's a coach's dream. Not just that he's a good player. Any basketball coach in the world loves Josh Hart because you just want a dude who's going to get every loose ball, who's going to play 100 million% every night. He is the coach's dream. So from a big picture standpoint, you can look at this and say, in terms of maximizing the lineup, maximizing Cat, a coach who's looking to win every game is thinking, I just want the guy out there because he's going to get the loose ball that we need to win. And I think that's also part of it. So I think some of it is genuine. I think some of it is probably less genuine. But I still believe big picture, and I think part of Mike Brown, the reason he started him on the bench is for this reason, I think. Big picture, like what is Josh Hart's best utilization? How does the team function best? I still believe it's with him as a sixth man, if he can embrace that role.
Sorry, I said the last thing was the last thing. This is really the last thing. For those who have concerns, and I think they are reasonable concerns, about if you put Josh Hart on the bench, you're aligning his minutes more closely with Mitchell Robinson. Would you like to wager against Benjy Ritholtz?
Always, the numbers are always good.
But I'm going to ask about a specific number.
Yeah.
But what percentage of the Knicks' own misses they are procuring when Mr. Robinson and Mr. Hart share the floor?
So I know that just when Mitch is on the floor, it's like 42%.
It's higher than that number.
So with Hart, because I was looking recently at Mitch plus Cat, and Cat does not raise it. Just Mitch is higher than Mitch plus Cat, which I thought was interesting. So Mitch plus Hart, you're saying it's higher than that. Don't tell me it's 50.
It's not. It is 100th percentile number.
47.
Close, 46.1.
That's crazy.
And listen, but again, like you look at these other numbers, low turnover number, good effective field goal percentage number, and you say, well, how are they doing that? But like, if you get an offensive rebound on half of your possessions, what are those going to lead to? They're going to lead to either a putback, which is a great fucking percentage shot, or a kick out to probably a corner three. And that's a great percentage shot.
Honestly, I'm not concerned because especially coming off the bench, it's less game plannable, first of all, and you're not doing it against the team's best lineups. Like they're going to come in with bench units. And like, I actually think let's say the first sub in this arrangement would be Hart for McBride or Hart for Bridges, let's say, or Hart for OG and Mitch for Cat. Now, what starters who've already played 5-6 minutes and what bench units in the league want to deal with that kind of energy and physicality coming off the bench in the middle, towards the end of the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter? That sounds terrible. That sounds like no fun. Like you bring in your mash unit. That's your mash unit. Like I don't hate that. I know the spacing gets tight, but again, you're not closing with this lineup. With Mitch isn't going to close most games. It's going to be Hart probably and Cat, depending on who's playing well. So you're not going to have like the Hart-Mitch spacing crunch. And we know Brunson, if he plays the whole first quarter, and let's say he's playing a few of those minutes he can deal with the spacing constraints. We've seen it his whole career. He doesn't need Cat spacing. It helps. But Brunson can weave through the jungle gym like he did for a full season with this team. He'll be fine.
And then you take out Mitch and JB and Brunson at the top of the second.
Cat comes in to run that unit,
and it's Cat, and then you do Cat, Hart, Deuce. If it's a playoff game, you're probably putting OG back in there, and then pick your.
Is it Yabusele at the 4?
I was going to say that. Then you're probably picking which guard do you feel most confident in at that point? Is it? I mean, it's probably Shamet, right?
If Shamet's around, yeah.
If Shamet's around, maybe someone who's not on the team right now. We don't know, but that's the general.
That's the framework that I like. That's the framework that I like. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I've been consistent with this, to be clear. I don't know if you've heard on the post game. I've said I want Deuce to. There's something in me that I'm just like I want to see it.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work, guess what? What is it? December 4th.
They have a whole season.
Yeah.
You still have 3/4 of the season to sort this all out, but it is worth a look, man. Like, and that's so to answer that was a long-winded answer to a great question in terms of what we would do, but that's it. Yeah.
So briefly with Giannis, just so we could say something, because I feel like we're going to be obligated to say something on Giannis for every Knicks Film School thing that we do for the rest of the season. It doesn't look like he's going to get traded anytime soon. Doesn't seem like the Knicks feel that they have a great shot as of right now.
Was there any update on his injury, John, today?
2 to 4 weeks.
I didn't see it. Okay, yeah, 2 to 4 weeks.
2 to 4 weeks. The Bucks have some winnable games in there. The Bucks have some iffy games in there. We'll see what they do. Because I don't think I've had to have time to ask you this specific direct question, which is, if do you have enough confidence in their ability to mount at some point during this era, or find a sufficient replacement for OG if they have to send OG out in the deal? I know you said last night, if you get Giannis and worry about it later. But like specifically the OG, because if you send OG out, like you're not trading for another OG Anunoby. You're not finding another OG Anunoby. There are no other OG Anunobys. And I guess that's the part that would like, if there was a part of it that would give me a little bit of pause, it would be like, is he so fundamental to specifically a Brunson led team? And I don't think the answer is yes, but I at least wanted to pitch it to you.
I think that part of the answer is that you have a version of OG Anunoby already on your team.
In Giannis.
No, that's not what I was going to say.
Oh, you're going Macau. Okay.
Yeah, like if you were just to ask, now we know because we watch them every day how different players, they're very different players. However,
yes, sir.
If you were going out and and you talked about 3&D plus players, those are two of the guys on the top of the list, like that everyone was talking about for years. They're different sizes. They're different players. However, I actually do think that the Mikal acquisition made it semi-palatable. If you had to move OG for a Giannis, for example, that you could manage. You still have the plug and play 3-and-D dude. And in fact, there were times last season where I thought that Bridges and OG were struggling to coexist, especially on offense, because they kind of occupy the same areas of the floor.
We talked about this a lot last year, and it hasn't seemed like a problem. But then again, OG hasn't been here for.
Well, there's been a lot more motion, so I think that helps. And Bridges particularly has thrived in that motion. And he's moving all around the floor instead of kind of being contained in the corners. So I think that's really helped. I'm not that concerned about that now in terms of if this deal doesn't happen, but Mikal Bridges is like, a pretty ideal, the way he's playing right now on defense, like a pretty ideal 3-and-D guy. Now he's not the matchup on big wings, but Giannis can take on some of those assignments. You don't necessarily want him on ball handlers where he's like navigating screens, but certainly like the more brutish kind of like a Paolo, for example, is a really good matchup for Giannis. Like there are guys out there that Giannis can handle just a one-on-one. And then as a help defender, he changes your defense just like in a way OG does. Yeah. He's like, you're losing OG, but it's not. Giannis is a heck of a defensive player. Like you're gaining a great defensive player also. It's not a total trade-off here. So I think you can palette it. OG Anunoby this year has been the best on and off player since they've gotten him. They've been a great team every time he plays. He is essential to everything they do. But Giannis is Giannis, and a different level of superstar. It is what it is.
Do you think it is? I don't want to say essential, but it would behoove the Knicks if they were ever actually able to pull off this miracle and pull the rabbit out of the hat to get Turner along with Giannis in the deal.
No, I don't think it's essential. I think it's a nice fit. That's why the Bucks did it. That said, I don't know. I haven't looked at the numbers of the two of them on the floor. I'm not sure Giannis is like thrilled with Turner the way that's gone.
Well, I mean, the reason I ask is, again, I've seen some discussion on the interwebs about, well, if they're going to trade Giannis, then they should just go full bore and get rid of Turner too and get value for him. And based on how Turner has looked this year and the fact that he is in the first year of a 4-year, $100 million, 120, I don't know, paying a lot of money over the next 3 years after this one. I don't particularly look at that as a value contract. Like the Bucks did it out of desperation.
Yep.
So to me, it's like maybe it would behoove them to get off of that, money and call it a day. Giannis and Turner this year together have played 760 possessions. It's good, but it's like it's the same as just Giannis. Like they're plus 10.1, but Giannis on the court for the Milwaukee Bucks.
I guess like you've probably looked at this more than me. Like, what is the outline of such a deal? So it was like Cat and OG for Giannis and
so basically,
Turner? Does that work? Like
from a money perspective, it's again. I'm not saying this would be a 2-team deal. More teams get more complicated. Right. But from a money standpoint, you could do something essentially Cat, OG, and Mitch out. Giannis, Turner, Kuzma in.
Okay.
The money works basically. Give or take a Deuce
McBride. Any analysis of this is going to be a little haphazard because we haven't had time to like fully. But to me, if that opportunity ever sprung, I think it's a go. I don't know how you pass that up, and I understand the complications from a spacing perspective, from a like, are Giannis and Brunson really gonna like? Giannis and Dame didn't really work. Are Giannis and Brunson really gonna work? My answer to that is it doesn't really matter to me. They'll figure it out. Like they're good enough that even if they don't become a perfect pick and roll combination, they'll still be elite. So yeah, to me, that trade actually makes a lot of sense to me because you are at least getting some semblance of a stretch five with Giannis, and you're getting some semblance of a wing in place of OG. Now, is Kuzma my cup of tea? No, but he's shown against the Knicks this year he can play some defense when he wants to, and he's had a little bit of a better offensive year. So the outline of that deal, if the Bucks were ever strong-armed enough to make it, sign me up.
I was about to say, not planning to reference this text tonight, but like For that to happen, I'm thinking of a section of The Power Broker about Robert Moses when he was trying to raise, I don't remember what the number was, like $300 million for some fucking the Northern State Parkway. I don't know, something. And he literally was like, went to one place, to the next place, to the next place, to the next place, and raised bit by bit by bit. For the Knicks to end up with Giannis Antetokounmpo, it's going to be like, the Spurs are going to need to have an internal conversation, be like, we're not giving up Stephen Castle. And the Hawks are going to need to have an internal conversation and say, we're not giving up the Pelicans pick. And the Rockets are going to need to have an internal conversation and say, we're not giving up Sengun or Şengün or Thompson. And team by team by team, they're all going to need to look at the situation. And they're going to say, we're not going to give up the thing that the Bucks are saying they need to make this trade happen until there's only one team.
Well, yes, and to whatever extent Giannis has leverage here to say, I'm not going to resign with that team.
Well, that's why they wouldn't give up. That's why they're all deciding the thing that they're deciding, is because Giannis is putting it out there.
That's right.
So
it requires a lot of different things for this to actually happen, but fun conversations, fun to think about.
Yeah.
And the team itself is fun to think about without it. So it's the Knicks are in a good spot. Listen, they're playing well. We talked about the defensive solutions that might come. The offense has been humming. I see no reason it shouldn't continue to hum, if not get even better, as they continue to learn the system, get better, get healthy. So there's just a lot to look forward to. We'll you guys should keep watching Knicks Film School in terms of the updates on the Giannis market to whatever extent that develops. We'll be there with you. And as this team continues to play, we'll be all over it from the film perspective, from every perspective, because we cover the Knicks wall to wall. This has been the Knicks Film School X's and O's show.
One super chat.
Fanatics. Oh, we have I didn't.
It's a very important super chat.
Hit me.
It's from my girl, Jessica.
Yes. Hit me.
I'm going to put it up on the screen. This is the best super chat we've gotten all season. Big Tech Macri on 1s, 2s, and maybe some 3s.
That's pretty good.
Jess.
We're giving up some 3s, that's for sure.
They might as well put me on the court with how many 3s they're giving up.
Exactly right.
Sorry, I've ruined your vibe.
Not at all. I was just closing it up. I was closing shop. We did an hour, Mac. That was great. Thanks for.
I was the one who was like, "Let's do a tight 45," and here I am yammering on about Robert Caro.
I loved every minute of it. So thank you all for tuning in to another edition of the X's and O's podcast presented by Fanatics Sportsbook. Please follow us on the socials, like and subscribe, do all the things that help us continue to put out the product that I hope you all enjoy. You can see them below, all the different ways you can review and like and subscribe and continue to enjoy our content. From Jonathan Macri and myself, Ben Ritholtz, pleasure to have you all. Have a wonderful night.
Peace.
Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts, call 800-327-5050. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Not available in